Hey guys, Tommy Kerrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tommy Untamed. We're going to take a quick break and give a shout out to the sponsors who support the show and make it possible. The world's smartest investors are not buying oil stocks, they're buying mailbox money or oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as $25. Visit KerriganOilBoom.com to discover how to tap into monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy or connected, you just need a regular brokerage account. That's KerriganOilBoom.com to learn how you could start collecting oil royalty checks every month. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with a solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels, go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a blue room soon. www.blueroom.com.
So everyone knows what we're talking about because it's not exactly a normal thing. It's a requirement or a service you think would be picked up by taxpayers, rightfully so. And it's not. So could you, Mr. Letts, introduce yourself and kind of tell everyone what Invest is?
Well, thank you, Tommy. It's a privilege to be on your show. We thank you for the opportunity. Invest was started in 1993. That's over 30 years ago, about 32 years roughly. And quite frankly, here's how it happened. I was in public office, served on council. One of the things you do as and be in public office is you try to stay out in front of the public. So I was president of a Kiwanis club. That was one of the community services I did in my political career. We had a guest speaker that didn't show up for a breakfast meeting, so it was kind of hard to get it somebody else in the last second. So I called the sheriff and said, "Look, send me one of your deputies that happens to be out on patrol right now. He can talk about why he wanted to be a law enforcement officer. He can clean his gun. I don't care what he does. Just he's got 20 minutes he has to fill." And in the question and answer session, he was a young deputy. Someone asked him, "Where's the vest that we heard there's some shootings recently? Where's that vest saying it's supposed to protect you?" He said, "Well, the department doesn't provide them. I'm just got engaged, so I don't have any extra cash and can't afford it myself. One day, hopefully, I can buy my own." Thought that was odd. I sent him over to the Rotary Club and had somebody in the audience ask the same question. He gave the same response. So I called the sheriff. I said, "Look, I don't want to get your boy in trouble, but," he says, "y'all don't provide vests." He says, "Well, he's right. We don't. We've asked for them for years on council and not been able to get it funded." So I was young and cocky. You know what I mean? That was a while back, but I said, "No problem. I'm now on council. I'll get this thing funded." We got a $500,000 allocated in the budget for the following year. I was gone to the third reading. It takes three readings to get something passed in local government. And so when I got back, I had all these reporters asking, "How do you think about your fellow colleagues removing your $500,000 for body armor for the sheriff's department?" So I did something a politician's not supposed to do. I was young at the time. I spoke without thinking, and I just said, "Well, fine. If they feel that way about it, we'll just go to the public and raise it ourselves." Well, that was the headline all across the state. Once it's been said, Tommy, you can't backtrack and take it back. So it took us about 6 to 7 months to create a 501c3. I had no idea what I was doing, Tommy. I just thought you ask people for money, you got to have a 501c3 for it to be tax deductible, etc. We launched in the fall, and I've not been able to find an exit strategy ever since. We got, after about 2 years, we raised $500,000, took care of the sheriff's department. I announced that, hey, mission accomplished. We're moving on. And when I made that announcement, we got requests from all over the Southeast, not just in South Carolina, from various sheriff's departments, police departments. Could you take on one more before you pack it in? We decided just to go ahead and change. It used to be Invest to Protect Our Richland County Deputies. We just changed to Invest USA and decided to go this across the country because at the time, Tommy, this was 30 years ago, 52% of cops had no protection at all. That was over half. We got that down to 19%. But I want your audience to understand one thing. Back in the early 90s, a vest was called a concealable vest. It's the ones you see them wear under their shirt, under the uniform. And there was a reason behind that. The only technology we had that concealable vest will only stop a sidearm, a pistol. That's it. It worked out great back then because criminals were embarrassed about what they did. So what did they do? They put a gun under their shirt. They tried to hide it before they went into the gas station and robbed it. Now we're in a different scenario, Tommy. We're dealing with cartels, child sex traffickers, murderers they've been shipped in from all across the world, terrorists. They're proud of what they do. They use long range rifles, AK-47s, among other things. Well, I will tell you, a rifle round will cut right through a concealed vest as if you weren't wearing anything at all. I mean, there's no difference. So we had to stop about 10 years ago and create new technology called active shooter vest. You have your concealable vest on over under your shirt, but you throw the active shooter vest over it. It's got titanium plates. It'll stop anything, any rifle round, anything that's out there. It'll stop. And so, but unfortunately, Tommy, as of today, 90% do not have active shooter vests. Now, you stop for a minute about some of the things we're going to be talking about here on the show. You consider the fact that one of the priorities of the Trump administration is to make America safe again. You remember, we're going to go after the cartels. We're going after child sex traffickers, the terrorists in this country, all these illegal immigrants with these huge criminal backgrounds, and we're moving them out, we're kicking them out, sending them home. Well, I will tell you this: they are better armed and better protected than any of our people are. They're not sitting by the curb with a little lunch pail waiting for somebody to give them a ride home. They are actively defying and trying to make sure they don't get exported. We expect there to be a number of skirmishes in the near future. We know we're fixing to have one with Mexico now, where the cartels are located at. And quite frankly, we're asking America's finest. They're young men and women who are wearing the blue to, regardless of the fact that they don't have the necessary equipment for themselves, they're willing to go out, stand in the gap, do what's necessary to try to bring these criminals to justice, to remove them from America's soil, and to make it safe and free once again. Tommy, we live in America, the greatest country in the world, one of the richest countries in the world. There is absolutely no excuse that they don't have the necessary equipment that they have now. What we're finding out is, you've been following, I'm sure, as everybody else has in the media, just the Doge Commission is one of many things that we're doing. But I get briefings probably 4 or 5 times a day from DC. One of the things that just struck me over the weekend, it just really was so frustrating. During COVID, they came up with this idea: we're going to make sure everybody gets a $5,000 check And then they decide, oh, that's not enough. If your business is not able to keep its employees, we'll give you a loan that's forgivable. You probably don't have to pay it back to help meet your payroll so that we can continue this economy moving. Well, here's what we found out over the weekend, Tommy. We got $21 billion of loans that were made for businesses under COVID for 11-year-olds. And I get
didn't know
this.
that. I didn't know that.
I know we got some smart kids in this country, Tommy, but $21 billion worth of loans ain't no way possible. It's not even close. Here's what we're discovering, Tommy, and this is something we can talk about, but we are finding out this is not a matter of, oops, I ordered 2 pins instead of one. I ordered a little too much, or I ordered a nicer flare pin instead of the regular pin. I know you don't think I should have one, but this is not that at all. What we are discovering is this is a syndicated criminal element. Okay, this is organized crime. It is the biggest syndicated criminal gang or criminal element in the history of our country, probably one of the biggest in the world. They have been ripping us off by the trillions of dollars. And it's not like it's 21 billion people that are getting a $5 check. No. They get it to where there's a small syndicated group. They get the people inside the government who know what they're doing to overlook it. They collect them all, cash them all, and walk away with your and I money. It is your and I money. This is not just free money. This is taxpayer money. It's controlled by us. You and I pay for it. And quite frankly, I'm tired of getting ripped off about every 5-10 minutes by somebody that's raiding the U.S. Treasury. That's literally money laundering and embezzling. Here's the problem that you have, Tommy. This is when I say syndicated criminal network, you wouldn't believe what we've discovered in the last 5 weeks, how complex this organization is. Here's what they do. I'm just giving you one example. This is not their only thing. They have tons of schemes. One of the things they do is they create NGOs. What is an NGO? It's called a non-governmental organization. It's a charity, okay? I hate to use that word because we're a charity. I don't even like to be associated with that word. But you have all these people creating NGOs. And then what they do is if you're a member of Congress, Tommy, they say, Tommy, I want you to come serve on our board. Now, typically, when you tell me it's a nonprofit, you're asking me to serve on the board. I'm assuming you're asking me to volunteer, or you pay me a tank of gas to come to your meeting. Oh, no. What they do here is they say, Tommy, I want you to come serve on my board. By the way, we pay our board members from $2 to $5 million a year. Now, here's what I need you to do, Tommy, is I need $100 million appropriated in the annual budget. $100 million is so small they'll never even see it. You put $100 million, we'll give some fancy title, foreign aid relations, for the betterment of all American citizens. We'll give it some weird title. You get $100 million in there, you just keep it coming. It would be bad enough, Tommy, if one person did that, but you will be shocked at the numbers that they've got doing. This is just one method that they money launder, give money back to Congress, to people who vote for it, keep money for themselves. It doesn't a bit of it go to anything they say it's going to go to. It goes into their back pocket. We have been being ripped off. I'd like to say it was just the Biden administration. It goes back long ways. Clinton, even under Bush, it goes back a long way. The only people that tried to stop it was the first Trump administration. You say, well, why didn't he? Well, under the first Trump administration, he made one critical mistake. He assumed once he was declared the elector that everybody would get on board and everybody wanted to do what was right by this country and everybody was going to get on back and fix it. It's all they did is they patted him on the back. I'm your best friend, Mr. President. And they were stabbing him with the other hand the whole time, this whole 4 years. Obviously, we've learned our lesson this time around, Tommy. Things are not the same. You can see what's happened over the last 5 weeks. But this is what happens across this country. So you understand now why our first responders don't have the equipment that they need. Why do we have the best military in the world, yet we've got soldiers getting food stamps? It makes absolutely no sense. It's because of just the unscrupulous activities of our bureaucrats and elected officials. We call them a syndicated crime network who are robbing the U.S. taxpayer and the Treasury blindly.
What percentage of police don't have bulletproof vests today as opposed to 93? In relation to,
when we started 93, 52% had no vests. Okay, we got that down to 19% who didn't have a vest. Then we had to change Now you still got roughly about 22% with nothing at all. Then we had to make sure that we wanted to go back and give them active shooter vests. 90% do not. So we've got a helter skelter thing. I mean, you got, yes, 80% of cops that have a concealable vest. Okay. But remember now, if they get hit with a rifle round, they might as well not be wearing that vest at all. It'll go right through them. So they need this active shooter vest. 90% of them do not have it. Here's another startling statistic that your listeners need to be aware of, Tommy. 4 years ago, when we had the Biden administration going into office, okay, here's what happened. You had roughly 1.3 to 1.4 million sworn law enforcement officers across the country. Now, you know what they did for the last 4 years? They vilified it. Mainstream media, cops are idiots. Cops are, bad people. They were going to try to triumph for everything they can do. They look the wrong way. We're going to try to get them on, and somehow try to carry them to court, make them feel like they're the criminals. Here's where we're at now. We have less than 700,000 on the street. That's almost a 50% reduction of cops across the country. You tell me how New York City can go from 40,000 cops, is what their capacity was 5 years ago, down to 20,000 today. How in the world? And you remember, populations are increasing, not decreasing. So how in the world do you provide adequate protection and safety for your constituency when you've lost half of your force? That's where we're at today. And quite frankly, that's why it's about time we start changing priorities and start doing what's right by the American people. Quit treating the American people as being the last on the totem pole and everybody else gets our money. You and I can get on the soapbox for the rest of the day, Tommy. You want to spend all of our money in Ukraine. You want to spend all of our money here or there. You don't want to spend a dime to help the American people. Then we wonder why we have the problems that we do, like law enforcement. Why would anybody want to go into it when you won't even give me the necessary equipment so that I can come have a fighting chance to come home safely to my family? Your mainstream media treats us like we're dirt, like we're the worst things around. That's where we're unfortunately at today, Tom. And you and I both know what happens. When you get to where nobody wears a badge, what do you have? You have anarchy. You have a total collapse of society. We are almost there before, thank God, we saw the light and got Trump involved, but there's a long way to go. Well, there's a lot of things we've got to get fixed in a short amount of time.
What's the difference in pricing or necessary funding for something like active shooter versus concealable?
Interestingly, active shooter are not that much more expensive. They're about $700 a piece. Concealable vests you can get from 400 to 500. So yes, it's a little more expensive, but here's my pushback, Tommy. How do you put the value of a life of a cop? How do you calculate that? I mean, let's go down that path for just a second. All right, I don't give you a vest, Tommy. You're shot and killed in line of duty. What did it cost me? Well, I put a lot of money into you to train you. Okay, you got experience. I've got a family now that you've left behind. I've got out of death benefits. I mean, you realize it would have made a whole lot more sense just to make sure you had the necessary protective equipment and keep you around than to lose so many officers. You say, well, why don't they do that? Well, you remember I told you I've been in public office for 30 years. I've served on local office and council, et cetera. And I will tell you this, here's the problem that you have. It's an infection all across this country. I want to get everybody to like me. So if I have $100, instead of giving you $100 to what the Constitution says I need to do, what's provide for the common defense, that means law enforcement as well, et cetera, et cetera. I'll take that $100 and break it up 10 ways. I'll give it to the gay pride people for them to have a parade. I'll give it to the Latin Association for them to have a festival. I'll do this and that, thinking that they're all going to love me and all vote for me because I gave them some of your taxpayer money. That's a poor way of looking at politics. That's not the reason why we elect people. We elect people for you to make laws and for you to be good stewards of the assets that the public gives you, not for you to have a popularity contest.
What would be the catalyst to something like more, I guess, federalized, if that's the right word, government funding? Is because it's not just like a heartstring question of like how can you put a price on a human life. No, it's a legitimate like how much do you train, how much do you have to pay out in insurance, how much it's an actual question, and it far outweighs that of a bulletproof vest. With with the designation of cartels as terrorist organizations and with deportations underway, if there ever was a catalyst, do you think we would see it with something like this?
I do. Well, we've been working closely with the Trump administration, with the president himself, and there's a number of things that we're asking. First of all, we've got to take a look at the broad picture. How do we make America safe? Well, we can't do it without proper law enforcement. So we have to do a number of things. First of all, we've had mainstream media that has attempted to villainize law enforcement. Why is mainstream media so behind villainizing law enforcement? There's a broader question here, Tommy. It's the leftist liberals that want to vilify uh, law enforcement. And here's why they want to do it. They want us to have officers quit. They want to have few officers. They want violent crime to go up. You say, why would a politician want that? Because then it forces you as a constituent to feel like you are relying upon them. Better keep me in office because the only way we're going to get this under control is if you allow me to do what I think is necessary. Have they already tipped their hand into how they think they can solve the problem? Sure, they have. They said, you know what causes violent crime, Tommy, is guns. We all know that guns shoot themselves. So we're going to go in and make sure that we uh, modify, revoke, whatever words you want to use, the Second Amendment. Take all the guns off the street. They will guarantee your protection and security. What they really mean is we're going to take the guns off the street so you have no ability to fight back. Then we'll tell you what to do. It doesn't make any difference whether you like it or not. You will either comply. You have no way of resisting if you don't you're screwed. That's really what they want to do. That's why they have made such an effort to vilify. So back on the question you raised, first thing we're asking the Trump administration to do is let's change the tone. Help me change the tone nationally within media. That's why we appreciate shows like yours, Tommy. Mainstream media still hasn't gotten this memo. They're still fighting everything that America really wants and voted for. They're fighting for the opposite. But we've got to let the American people know, you know, I was asked on a show recently, what makes a good cop? Here's what the bottom line for law enforcement is. You have to stop and think about it for a minute, Tommy. The best cops are those who have determined to place themselves and their service to their community above themselves. Okay. They put their lives on the line. They're willing to go out and take a bullet for you, even though they know you don't like them. That's the best kind. So why should we not be honoring that? Why should we not be promoting that and having young people feel like, you know, this is an honorable calling? This is something I want to do. I want to help my community. If we change the narrative and change the perception, first thing it'll do is it'll help us start to get this deficit we have in recruitment and start bouncing things back off. People want to be in the business. The next thing we want to do is look, every cop knows I'm not going to die a millionaire. Okay. If you're going to try to be a millionaire and you're going to be a cop, somebody gave you the wrong advice. So here's what we need to do. But just because you're willing to serve your community, Tommy, doesn't mean you should live in a tent or you should be homeless on the street. We need to make sure that what we are paying our first responders is compensatory to their ability to live. They shouldn't have to work 80 to 90 hours a week just to pay the light bill. They should be able to do like every other American does. Put in now 40 hours a week is unheard of in law enforcement. But 50, 60 hours, that's all they should have to do. They shouldn't have to work extra shifts, extra private opportunities just to be able to help pay for a meal for the next day. It's unheard of. So let's take a look at making sure our officers are compensated the right way. Then the third thing is what we're just talking about with Invest. You shouldn't have to have Invest. Every officer who is working to uphold your safety is willing to put their life on the line to make it so that you can walk down the streets freely should have every piece of equipment that they need. And the fourth thing I'm asking for the administration to do is this. Look, law enforcement especially, but even firefighters, paramedics, you see the worst of the worst every day. You know, we see this with the military when you're in combat situations. You see enough of your buddies get blown up. I can't. You can say it doesn't bother you, Tommy, but it does. Okay, it's called PTSD. We have PTSD issues in first responders and law enforcement, but you realize it's never been recognized, even by our government. We do nothing about it. We provide them no services as to how to cope or how to deal with that. We need to be taking care of our families. And then the final thing I've asked the administration to do is to do this. You know, we had the nursing crisis. You remember, Tommy? I think old enough, or you may have heard about it if you're not. Back in the 80s, early 90s, this country ran into a healthcare crisis. We didn't have enough nurses. People were not getting proper medical care. So the federal government took an initiative to do everything they could to encourage people to go to college, people to become LPNs, registered nurses, etc. We're looking to that we need to do the same thing with our first responders. We've got a program together. We're fixing to unveil it with the White House. It's called public charter schools. There's a couple things that does, Tommy, that really helps the community. First of all, it's a charter school. So that means the group of parents that are overseeing it, they put in charge, you determine the curriculum. No more of this stuff coming down from Washington. You're going to teach your kids transgenderism or this or that. No, your group decides what the curriculum. You have to meet standards. They have to be able to have reading, writing, and arithmetic. But after that, you determine what the curriculum will be. Then the second thing that will happen is you will come as a high school student, preferably in your freshman year, but no later than your sophomore year. You will pick a track. You will either decide to be law enforcement, firefighter, or EMS. At the completion of your high school education, you will graduate with your diploma, as everybody else does. You'll also graduate with a 2-year associate's degree in one of those fields, and you will be certified in one of those fields. So the minute you grab your high school diploma as you're walking across the platform, you can walk across the street to the fire department, sheriff's department, to the EMS department, and apply and get a job immediately because you will be certified. Now, what a better thing to have, Tommy. You said, what if I don't want to do cop all my life? What if I don't want to be a firefighter? Have you a skill you can fall back on? You don't necessarily have to do it, but you're equipped and trained to be able to do so. And quite frankly, I think it presents an image of the honorability of serving your fellow man. And if we implement those 5 things, I think we'll turn this country around on law enforcement alone. We're trying to do the same thing, as you know, with Pete in the military. But this whole liberal ideology that they just pumped down our throats for years, it's just screwed up so many things. It's just amazing, Tommy, what it screwed up. I mean, nobody wants to join the military anymore because you don't know whether you're going to be put in a foxhole with a guy wearing lipstick or not. I mean, you don't want to be a first responder because here you're trying to protect, you're trying to save lives, and you got people over your shoulder. You touched him the wrong way, you grabbed him the wrong way, you're going to jail instead. When there's a mentality that the criminals are the victims and the good guys are the criminals. We've got to eradicate that, and we're doing that side by side. But that's the only way we're going to be able to get this country back to place. One other thing I want to mention, Tommy, that we're working with the Trump administration about is, yes, we're trying to get our law and order restored through our first responders, et cetera. But we've also got to rework our jurisprudence system, our judicial system. We've got activist judges, activist DAs, prosecutors, that if we don't get it fixed, it doesn't do any good to get an extra cop on the street if the people that are booking them put them back on the street faster than you can arrest them and put them behind bars. That's what we're experiencing now in the Trump administration today. You read about it today. We have now more of these federal judges that have decided to become activists who are trying to tell the president what he can and can't do. Sorry, you have to continue to spend. Even though the money is fraudulent, you have to continue to spend it anyway. The Constitution makes it very clear the executive branch and the chief administrator, which is the president, controls the spending in the budget, not the judicial. But you see, we've got to make some changes, and that's why I made the statement earlier on your show. There's a lot that needs to be done, Tommy. There's a lot that needs to be done. We're just hopeful that we got enough fortitude and perseverance to get the job done.
Could you clarify what you mean by working with the Trump administration or the White House in general? It does. That is I guess I don't know, what am I looking for? That is an inspiring idea that they're actually listening.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Here's what the Trump administration wants to do, and here's what President Trump has done. He's a good friend. We work well together. Remember the first term, he came in, you had all these politicians, bureaucrats, I'm your best friend, let me tell you what you should do. And all they did was block his agenda. He figured out this time, I'm not really looking for too many people on the inside. I want people on the outside that can tell me what's really going on, to bring their perspective, their ideas that work, and they show me what we can do to partner with you and to help utilize federal resources to either restructure or to get the job done. He's a master at that, and that's why you've seen so much happen in the last 5 weeks.
In terms of the actual like balance sheet, because I imagine that's the way to kind of cut through all resistance, if there was a way. Is there any way to quantify the number of police officers who have not been killed thanks to the efforts of Invest? Like, is there a way to say
Yes.
these guys didn't? Here's the, and then this is where this person was shot, and whatever a ballistics expert or a coroner says that would have killed them had they not had this, and then can you multiply that over counties, years, decades, put a price on it? Is there a, and I know it sounds cold to put a price on it, but I mean ultimately at the end of the day, if you're trying to pitch a government, then that's what you have to do is you have to put a price on it.
And we in fact, I remember the last time I think when I was on your show, Tommy, you mentioned that.
And I know it sounds cold to put a price on it, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're trying to pitch a government, then that's what you have to do is you have to put a price on it.
And we in fact, I remember the last time I think when I was on your show, Tommy, you mentioned that we have put that together. Let me tell you, the numbers are staggering. We have been over 4,700 officers that have been saved. Now, you figure quantitatively that each save represents at least a half a million to $1 million. You say, why? Because not only is it the amount of costs I had to pay to train you, remember out of death benefits. You remember I got a family now you left behind that are entitled to something. They shouldn't be thrown out on the street because of the fact that their husband paid the ultimate sacrifice, and now they can't have a place to live. So there's follow up benefits and all that have to be done. It comes close to $1 million. That's 400 and some odd. That's almost
That's
half
four.
$1 billion.
No, it's more than 4,700 times a million each. That's 4.7 billion.
Thank you. You're better at math than I
No,
am.
I'm awful at
Thank you.
math. I know 1,000 times a thousand is a million, so 1,000 times a million is a billion. So 4,700 times 1,000 would be 4,700,000 times 1,000 again would be 4,700,000,000. That's almost $5 billion. See, that's like what you need to pitch. That's what you have to pitch with. Just that cold number, and just be like, because that, for better or worse, that is what gets attention. You're right. Everybody
Well,
can.
you're right, and it comes at a good time, Tommy. Here's what we're able to do with it now. And this we're just starting this. Is we're say, look, we just found you a savings. The Dodge Commission just found you a savings of 32 billion that was stolen last year. If we'd only had five of that, we'd be exactly where we need to be in this country with law enforcement. So can we, as we're starting to find and prosecute these people for stealing from us, can we kind of cut a little bit of that out and put it towards where it's needed, towards our first responders? And we're getting some pretty good response so far, but that's the next step, Tommy.
Well, then not only that, it's so if it saves 4.7 billion, and so how many? What was the cost to you guys to buy those vests for? I'm trying to figure it out in my head. So how many? What's the total number of vests do you think you guys? I'll get a calculator because I am not good at math. What is the
We've given
total?
over 16,000 so far, but you
16
consider
16,000
16,700, I think is what its total is right now.
since '93.
Just 93. But figure this, Tommy, you say, wow, that's a lot of vests. Now, when you're talking about, I realize we're at 700,000 now, but we should be at least 1 million officers. That's not a whole lot. Consider how many people need the help.
No, absolutely not. But I'm just trying to think. So you couldn't make the argument that every vest donated is a vest saved because so 16,700 total vests and then it saved 4,700.
Correct.
So that's roughly one out of every four vests you've given. So you have to donate four vests to save one life, and then that one life that's saved $1 million in insurance, training, blah blah blah, multiplied by the 4,700 would be 4.7 billion. So how much would the 16,700 vests cost?
Well, if you use $700 a piece, you got to
700.
calculate. If you're trying to do it in your head, I'd say
So
a
that's
thousand
11
dollars.
that's $11.7 million spent on 16,700 vests. It saved 4,700 lives, giving you 4.7 billion in payouts that you didn't have to do. So an investment of 11.7 million yields a savings of 4.7 billion. So you wouldn't even need the 4.7 billion. I'm just looking at it from like a way to
Right.
pitch it. You go to the government, you pitch, we go 4.7 billion. They're probably going to have sticker shock. If you said over 30 years and $11.7 million, we were able to save you $5 billion, that's all you have to pitch is 11.7 million to save 4.7 billion.
Exactly. You're right.
So that's what, if I were you, that's how I would pitch it. Is like, you don't even need the 4.7 billion. I mean, it'd be nice to have, but you can be like, we don't even need that. We need 11.7 million to offset. We need 10 million to offset 5 billion. That
Love
alone
it.
might be your pitch, man. That's how I would go
I
about
think
it.
that's a great pitch, Tommy. One of the things I can say it up jokingly is we're an all volunteer organization. So trust me, you, I'm not trying to keep the doors open a minute longer
Yeah.
than we have to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you don't. Yeah, no. It's like you know, so like like oncologists, like cancer doctors, they'll say the best day will be when you and I never speak again, because it means the
Right.
job's over.
Exactly.
No, ideally you wrap this thing up, and not in a cloud of defeat, but because you're like, everyone has a vest and it's now ingrained or codified and it's over. So that's the way to
Yeah.
go. I mean, I don't know how you would pitch that or what the pitching channels are. I have no idea. I've never done any work with the government at all. I don't know how those contracts
You're
differ.
fortunate, Tommy.
I know, and I'm going to keep it that way. I mean, I'm one of the only podcasts on the planet that's not getting USAID funding to push some State Department propaganda. So that's a little upsetting. I wouldn't have minded a couple shekels. I would have put a rainbow flag behind me if you'd pay my rent for a year. No, I wouldn't. That's gay. But still, like, whatever. But my point is I would imagine that in government pitching, as opposed to, because in terms of like a private pitch, I feel like that's, you do that all day long. You 11.7 million, we save 4.7 billion.
Right.
That
That's
meeting's opening and ending in 5 seconds.
exactly that's a self-explanatory,
Yeah,
self-selling pitch.
yeah. Versus to government, but I mean, if there's ever been a time now where a pitch like that would hold more weight with a government that is, government capital G is, traditionally wasteful. I wonder if is there a way to tie that into, I don't know, is there a way to tie that into private company? I'm trying to think of like,
Be
who,
interesting. Be
yeah,
interesting.
where do you get is it from one vendor? Is it from,
No, we put it out to bid. Right now, we're doing Buffalo Armory out of New York. Of course, I got to be blunt with you, Tommy. There's not a lot of vendors that have the titanium plates.
hmm,
Uh, and I refuse to go anywhere outside of the U.S.
yeah,
I mean, because China, I've seen China steel. Uh,
Chinesium? Yeah,
yeah, you're not sure what you're getting.
no. Yeah, it's a bunch of recycled cans. Yeah, I don't know. That's. I mean, you're the one that does this. You would know how to. But I mean, that's what I would pitch to whoever your liaison is or point of
Right.
contact. Would be like 11.7 million for 4.7 billion. Like, they're making such a big show, and as they should, but they're making such a big show out of cost cutting, right? I mean, every day
Right.
it's, no more transgender assignment clinics in Sri Lanka or whatever. I feel like that's the quickest layup ever. Would be, we're saving $5 billion, and you're saving 5,000 law enforcement lives.
Right.
Man, if there's ever been a slam dunk, I feel like that's it.
And at a time when it's needed now, where our recruitment's the lowest it's ever been, our numbers are the lowest it's ever been. We can't afford to lose many more of them, Tommy.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. But we're coming up in 45 minutes to an hour, so I'd say we wrap this up right now. But everybody, if you go to the links in the description, you can go help, read more, you can donate. Anything I've left out, anything you want to touch on that I have, we can. If you got more stuff you want to touch on, you're absolutely, floor is
Well,
yours.
let me just quickly say as we
Yeah.
conclude, Tommy, thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to your listeners. Do yourself a favor, listeners. Take the time today, if you see a first responder, just simply wave and say thank you for your service. Our morale has never been lower than it is today. They need to hear that you're behind them. Do that. stay vigil. Make sure you continue to watch what's going on around you, and get prepared to see as we really get engaged with the cartels and all these child sex traffickers. We're determined to not disrupt their operations. We're going to eliminate it. So there's some interesting days ahead, and keep us in your prayers. God bless you, Tommy. God bless America. Look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, please go into the description. You can find the links there and check it out. Mr. Letts, thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you for your time. And pitch that. I'll send you this link.
Do please.
Text them that link and be like, I'd start right here. Look, there's the pitch. Just do that. Maybe it might work. I don't know.
I think we're going to send it to every member of Congress,
Beautiful.
and and start from there.
Beautiful. Sounds good to me. Well, Mr. Letts, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Take care, buddy. God bless you.